my co-chair Rich Berry, who I'm sure will give you a wave shortly, maybe not. I'm delighted today to introduce to you Pete Smith. Pete and I have known each other for many a year. How long do you think, Pete? Maybe about 25 years, maybe?
Well, yeah, about 20.
About 20 years? Okay,
Yeah,
I've lost 5 years somewhere. So about 20 years. And we've been together at lots of NAS and Engage conferences over the year. Pete is the deputy head of West Kirby Residential School, and we've worked quite closely within education, learning and development teams, and within residential care, Pete, over the last few years. Pete today is going to be talking to us about his experiences, the school's experiences over the last period, and particularly focusing on Ofsted inspections. He's an absolute legend, is Pete. I've known him for a lot of years. He's got lots and lots of experience and knowledge, and he wants to share with us his experience, as I say, of Ofsted accountability visits. And I think he's got some interesting stories to share with us also. He's going to be sharing top tips from his experience in safeguarding, risk assessment and behaviour, attitudes, curriculum, all of that during this next hour or so, and including impact. Is that enough build up, Pete?
It's all right.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I've done much more than that too, but no, that's fine. Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. No, thank you very much indeed, Sue. Brilliant. Yeah, but the conversation we had a while ago was, that we were lucky enough, fortunate enough to have 3 visits by various inspectors for one reason or another, which will all become clear. And from that, it was it was successful. We were successful in the outcomes, and clearly they wouldn't have asked me to do it had it been not successful. So it's just a great opportunity. I was just really pleased that we hadn't had another Ofsted before this one, because I would have had to add to the slides, and it was already up to about 50. But also it might have been quite the same. But I will start sharing the screen. There are a number of sort of YouTube sort of links which are from our school. I've got a few bits and bobs and multimedia stuff, so hopefully it'll work. And the most important bit is that I want to open an element of and open a sort of conduit for collaboration, really, because we've had an experience which we feel like we really learned from. And as I say, hopefully it will sort of support the broader church of Engage. So I'm going to share my screen, and I've been through a few times to see if it sort of works, and hopefully it does. And so we'll see how we get on. I'll just do it so I can see what I'm doing, and I can just see Sue. Fantastic. As I say, if there's any problems, please message, and I'm sure Georgina or Sue will get in touch. Should take about an hour, but who knows. Right, okay. Lockdown, absolutely. And straight away, one of the pictures there is, I've used my own artwork most of the time, but there are a few other bits and bobs. And these bits of artwork, for people who know me, I kind of always have a sketchbook on me, and I kind of try and reflect any situations where we're living at the moment in education usually. So in work, I'll sort of try and reflect what's happening in the world of the young people. So this is one particular image that I've drawn throughout lockdown, and the idea is no man is an island. John Donne, I think the poem is, and that's it. We're all together in this, but we are separated. So it's how we've sort of come together, and the key thing is the engage and connect moniker, which I think is fantastic. So I'll move through. It is strange times, and I don't know how many times you've heard that phrase. I've heard it hundreds of times, and I've probably said it a number of times. It is strange times. We're in uncharted territory, but we are, and I agree, the explorers, the social sciences, of a new phenomenon. It is new, and I think we're at the forefront of what that looks like, and we've got a real opportunity to reshape how our most vulnerable learn, and that's in mainstream and in SEND. Have an opportunity to rewrite what our most vulnerable need to learn. What do they need most? And I think we found very, very quickly what is most important to our young people and to our staff throughout this. And it's recalibrating what the expectations are and the needs are, really. And we have the opportunity of showing that what works in SEND works for all, and that's about sort of looking at the great work that is done with our most vulnerable young people, and then sharing that beyond. And one of the things Sue does incredibly well is like a school as a hub for lots and lots of schools, including mainstream schools in our area, is what I think a lot of SEND schools need to be doing, is linking in with, and great practice from mainstream and crossing those, cross-pollinating really is really key. And that's something that clearly Ofsted and anyone who's inspecting us are hoping that we would do. And we have an opportunity to show that SEND stands for, and this is my particular bugbear, you know, I use this whenever we show people around and talk to people. SEND, specific educational needs and differentiation. You know, I know it stands for special and disability, but, you know, we're all in the same bag here. We're all, you know, we're all in the same conditions at the moment. So we all have specific educational needs and we all need differentiated work. So hopefully throughout this particular presentation as well, I'm going to try and sort of model some of the bits that appeal to some people and don't to others and vice versa. So I think it's just an opportunity from a crisis, which will come up a bit later as well. And there's one of my little pictures. Okay. The aims, I suppose, are share to experiences during the pandemic. So what's different in the norm? You've all had Ofsted, you're all very much aware of that. What's different? What have we seen? Priorities for the education sector. What's actually been inspected and evaluated. And at the end of this, I've got 3 or 4 slides which are very, very wordy, but what they are is the full criteria of the assurance visits that Sue actually provided me with bullet points underneath every single one, a checklist that I went through, that what we did as a school and what we've done since. So I'm not going to go through those in detail, but that's just something I want this presentation to be something you can just have and see as a sort of a reference as well. Demonstrate how it was measured and share good practice. And again, at the end, a call for collaboration, really, please. Just, you know, there's some great remote learn, there's some great ideas, but, you know, if we can share it as engage, come together, then, you know, we've got a massive resource opportunity here to be the best in the country and best in the world, really. And I've just put a little code. I know some people are a bit geeky and like to have a little sort of quiz. I have put something in here, which is there's a particular code that needs to be cracked, but don't worry about it. I don't want it to distract you throughout. So I'm going to tell you now, it doesn't appear till the last slide. So keep that in your mind if you want, make a note, but don't worry about it. You don't have to be distracted. There will be no relevance to that as we go through. I was obviously left too much time with this presentation, wasn't I? So there you go. Context. We've just been through, actually, we're in the 3rd lockdown, 2021. So the period they were inspecting, people were inspecting, are in that period. We had a major incident in school in September. And I will talk more about that. I spoke to the principal of West Kirby now, Sian Thomas, cracking lady, you know, done some great things for the school already. And what she sort of talked to me about was, we talked about this incident. He's very, very happy for us to be very open about it and stuff like that, within reason, data protection, etc. However, she does feel there's an opportunity of me putting something together to how to manage a major incident, because, you know, we did and it was fine. So just for you to be aware of. We had 3 visitations, and I was sort of put that down because before Christmas, it's very Dickensian in the way I've written it, but I think that's how it felt. And like the ghosts, they actually came to help. We had a local authority safeguarding review based on the major incident. An Ofsted assurance visit very, very, very quickly afterwards, and an Ofsted research visit just towards the end of term. And really, it's that all sort of try and talk about and talk to. And again, it's you know, what seems like a crisis and stuff like that. It's how we manage to sort of work with our attitude and things. So just a bit of an overview, really, for all of us. The past year in schools has been very complex. 6 months of it, pupils have been in school, approximately. For the other 6 months, people have been in school or remote learning, depending on what type of pupil it is and what type of needs they've had. 50% has been major disruptions, so remote learning for most pupils, that's most mainstream pupils, and probably 25 to 50% of pupils in the SEND sector, and 33% minor disruption, so that's isolation, bubbles, face mask, and all the weird stuff that goes along with that. And of the last year worked out, and there's a little graph coming up, at 17% normal schooling. So of that, there, you know, the orange is when we've been closed in lockdown, apart from the November one, and the green is when we've been sort of open. So if you look at that, it's like 6 versus 6. And I've added March because clearly I don't think we're going to be going back in March too soon. So just to give a feel for the period, again, they're coming into the inspecting us. What are they looking for? What are they asking for us to show? A couple of bits of information sort of I think we need to be aware of when they come in. This is sort of in the local news, but these 2 slides sort of talk about things that we need to be looking at. This has been reported a number of times, but this is on the 25th of January, this month, last month. Referrals during lockdown. There's been a notable drop in referrals since we closed, and that's just from January. Most pupils have been learning remotely since the start of term. Vulnerable children still allowed, we know that, but we're up to about 50%. I'm not sure where you're up to. And we know from discussion with officials that all parts of the UK have had the same sort of drop in those referrals. The key concern is that no longer visible to services when it comes to lockdown. Later on, there's a slide and a little discussion as to what we've done as a school and how we presented that to Ofsted, and particularly the research. Ofsted research project they came in to talk about. They're really keen on drilling down on that. And anxiety levels have dropped. Now, what's that about? That shouldn't happen. That doesn't make sense. This was in August. 1,000 pupils, 14-year-olds, saying that, you know, since they've been in, their anxieties have been less. They've had less anxiety in school since the previous October. Big surprise, raised questions about the impact of school environment on teenagers' mental health. I think it's a shock, but it's also not surprising for people who've been in the role for a while. And certainly in SEND, you know, if you get it wrong, you get it pretty much in your face. You know it's gone wrong. You need to change. You need to adapt. And there's lots of training. But I think for our mainstream colleagues, I think it's something that we need to then tap in. You know, there's some brilliant, fantastic teaching moderation that goes on in mainstream that us in SEND possibly miss out on, vice versa when it comes to the mental health, well-being, particular sort of diagnoses and support for young people in SEND. I think, you know, we can help. This is a quote here. This is a very recent one from Will Smith, actually. There's a difference between being able to teach and being able to teach kids well. And I think that's a really profound comment. It's not from the famous Will Smith, it's from my son who's 14 and goes to grammar school, because I was talking to him about this and he gave me that little gem, and I thought that sums it up for me. That's really good. So good on him. But he's one of these children who is benefiting from being home, is more than happy to be self-motivated and is, you know, he's got our support, but he's self-motivated. Very lucky. My daughter, very different. My daughter was somebody who last year didn't have to do her exams, and you couldn't have seen a happier kid. But there you go. And you know, there is 2 sides to every story. And again, we need to take this into account. I'm sure we are. But, you know, I initially put pupil A and pupil B as neurotypical and possibly SEND, but it didn't work. So just this list could be ridiculously big. But the pros for lockdown, you know, no exams, my daughter please, other people wouldn't be. You're off school, you don't have to go in, you've got your social media, you've got your leisure time. Cons, very much no social life for people who like, you've got lots of friends, no clubs, all these things that were the normal side of people's, you know, life. But and also exploitation via, you know, in the media of internet and social media. A different type of kid, you know, with the pros, they've got a bit of peace and quiet. Maybe those on the spectrum, lack of social interactions, a bit of peace there. Trusted adults on hand, etc. Cons, lack of consistency, routine, lots of changes, biggest problems a lot of pupils have. And the same exploitation, safeguarding issue. So I think it's just something that, again, you know, when we be talking, you know, people come in and talk to us, how are we looking at that? How are we looking at what we're supporting people? You know, we have got 50% in and 50% at home based on a regulated conversation with all the parents and carers. At the moment, that's what's working best. Again, those who know me, I do draw things. So just really mental health problems, the possible causes. I'm just going to express this through imagery and let you think what you want, really, but I will cease to talk for a minute or so. think I best sort of talk there rather than people get really upset. Again, this one, we are, we're looking at, what it's like, what the empathy, the compassion, how do we keep in touch? How do we support people at home? What may be happening? Those people who are struggling, and the words "terrifying prisons of the mind" aren't my comment. They're Aldous Huxley in an essay on Piranesius, a 17th century illustrator, and he did the prisons and Cartieri and various different things. And it's my drawing of it in the middle there. But it's just, what are our young people going through, and how are we supporting them? So just a very visual sort of thing there. In a recent Young Minds survey, 2,000 young people, following activities were identified as being unhelpful or helpful to mental health and well-being. And I thought I was really pleased with this. I thought it was really good. And then I looked at when the survey was carried out, and it was just before the initial lockdown last year. And the top there, it says face-to-face calls with friends. And that means face-to-face. That means with meeting people. And they can't do that. And that's the one they felt was the most helpful in their mental health. Just a few down is learning new skills. We can do that, but how can we maintain some of these? They can watch films and things like that, and exercise they can do with us or on their own. Reading, we can support them. So really at the top there, face to face, what can we do? Learning new skills. So basically, I'm going to try and unpick what we've done as a school and how we presented that to Ofsted. One of the biggest things we did was we set up an assembly in March. That went right the way through the first lockdown, and we continues to do so now. And I've called it a community together wherever. And what we're looking at doing is how do we continue and maintain that face-to-face element and learning new skills for all young people and parents and carers and any other stakeholders really. And particularly when the Ofsted inspector came in, I did insist, and I've talked to heads lots and lots, and it's about how you direct Ofsted to support your own, what you want, the story you want to tell, which would be the best possible picture of what's going on without hiding anything. And I insisted to look at elements of the assembly, and she was quite happy to see that. What we did was we set up a community at WKRS email address, and then that all parents and carers and governors could send every week evidence that the pupils are doing some work, comments, things like that. And we would use that in the assembly at the end of the week, together with other things. But I asked a lovely guy in our place called Chris Scullion, who's a tech guy, and he does science and STEM, just to put together a bit of a sort of overview of our assemblies. It's kind of the sort of thing I showed to the Ofsted inspector. So I'm going to show you it. Hopefully you'll pick up something from it, and then we'll at the end of it we'll sort of we'll move on. But I'm just going to be showing this, so each time I show a YouTube thing, there'll be some kind of faffing around, but that's life, isn't it?
Introduction, take one.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, hello, and good morning, and good morning. Good morning, welcome again to our celebration assembly. It's the May Day and the VE Day. Today's theme is Together Wherever. The focus of this week's will be it's Mental Health Awareness Week. And to start off with, I'll pass on to Mr. Saunders to give you a bit of an update on the work he's been doing to do with PPE.
Some of you might know we've donated a considerable amount of protective equipment to our local hospital. Now, we are currently working on a new scheme that involves staff and community making scrubs and bags and other protective clothing items for the NHS.
The final piece of news, National Deaf Week was really successful this week. Miss Millington put a lot of effort into the daily sign language tutorials, and we've got some nice examples of some of the things that pupils have done.
Pete, sorry to interrupt.
To start off with,
I'm afraid we can't. Sorry, we
Thomas.
can't. We can hear the video, but I'm afraid we can't see it. We're still on your presentation slides.
Oh gosh, right, okay. Thanks for that. Let's see if I can. I'll stop sharing and then go back.
And then there's two little boxes at the bottom, Pete, that I think if you tick, it means that you can share YouTube and
That's
send.
right. Fantastic. Optimize for video clip. Let's see if I can you see anything there?
Yeah, that's great.
So you can see it all now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll sorry, I'm going to go back to the beginning. I do apologize.
Introduction, take one. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, and good morning, and good morning. Good morning. Welcome again to our celebration assembly. It's the May Day and the VE Day. Today's theme is Together Wherever. Focus of this week's will be its Mental Health Awareness Week. And to start off with, I'll pass on to Mr. Saunders to give you a bit of an update on the work he's been doing to do with PPE.
Some of you might know we've donated a considerable amount of protective equipment to our local hospital. Now, we are currently working on a new scheme that involves staff and community making scrubs and bags and other protective clothing items for the NHS.
The final piece of news there, National Deaf Week was really successful this week. Miss Millington put a lot of effort into the daily sign language tutorials, and we've got some nice examples of some of the things that pupils have done there as well. To start off with, to start our shout-outs, got Miss Thomas with a special message for us all.
Hello everyone, how are you? I've really been enjoying Miss Millington's deaf awareness videos this week, and I've been practicing Miss Millington, so I hope I got that right.
And now for the certificates. Brilliant, and lovely to see a load of certificates again that have load, can't say load, come on. Brilliant, and lovely to see many different certificates again. And now I'm going to hand over to our science reporter.
Welcome to our rocket launch to space.
Mr. Morgan and the primary staff have put together lots of space travel and astronomy tasks for the primary pupils this week, including this task on travelling through the solar system. We've had a lot of success recently with the Engage Awards, and here's Kieran from the competition's founder.
Hello, my name is Kieran and I work for Vision for Education. This year, in partnership with Engage in Their Futures, we encourage schools across the country to take part in some fun and creative competitions, and it gives me enormous pleasure to announce that West Kirby Residential School has won no fewer than 6 prizes this year.
Just wanted to sort of make you aware of what the Engage in Their Future initiative is. There's a website and we'll get a link sent to all staff as well. But more importantly than, even me just talking about it now, I'd like one of our young pupils who was very successful last year to say a few words about what his experience was.
Hi, so last year the Engage Awards was so great. We got to go to Stratford and it was just amazing. Beautiful place, a great location, and I was so happy for all the stuff I got, the trophy, the certificate, it was amazing. So happy for the experience I got to build experience, and I'm so grateful for the awards, obviously from the book and that. It was amazing.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. And now for the results of the Earth Poetry Day competition that Miss Dennis held and advertised. The prize has gone to Freya and Ben, and fantastic efforts, and they will both be getting a prize and certificates. I'm going to read one of the two, Life. The vibrant, beautiful coastline, the glittering, shimmering sea, the green fields, the majestic mountains. The earth is coming back to life. Pollution has stopped. The ozone layer is healing. The birds are singing in celebration. Animals are living their best life. I sit and appreciate our shared home, our planet, Earth. And now for the shout-outs. Tyler has been busy sewing together Night Fury dragon. He has used his artistic talents to cut, sew and bring together an amazing dragon. He's also shown lots of patience in learning these skills and has improved every day. Well done. Declan from home has been doing really positive things. He's made Yorkshire puddings all by himself. And the most important bit of news this week is that it's Refugee Week. And this week we've had an assembly. Ms. Clemenson and Ms. Hercules have put an assembly in on Wednesday, so please try and catch up on that. And Ian Downing from Asylum Link Merseyside came to school last year, and he's done a wonderful video for us all to see.
Hi, this is Ian from Asylum Link Merseyside. Came to visit your school last year. We had a lovely day talking about refugees, what they would need for a journey, the things they'd take with them, and what it must be like to have to leave them and to make a journey into the unknown.
And now for some shout out from Ms. Thomas.
Hello everybody, how are you? I hope you're having a great week and enjoying this lovely sunny weather. But don't forget to put the sunscreen on. I've got some shout outs for us. The first two go out to Caden and John.
That's what we're looking at doing. We've got some nice sort of things we're going to send out. We've got some rules for keeping safe, just to make it clear to people, which I'm sure Mr. Scullion will put on the screen. We've got quite a nice thing that we've got a sort of leaflet we're going to do, and so some simple, straightforward rules that we're looking at. The most important thing is we miss you. We want you to come back. We really are wanting to welcome people back. Staff have missed it. Pupils have missed it. Which I'll start off with has two parts. We have a guest reporter.
Big reveal. Big reveal. Scene one, take one.
I want to go.
And thank you very much indeed, Boris, for that guest appearance today. Really lovely to see. It's a shame Katie couldn't join us today. Obviously, Katie's been instrumental. Good morning and welcome to our last virtual assembly. There's quite a few pupils back in school and they've been very helpful. Very helpful. Oh, thank you very much.
Call this. Is that you recording? Yeah, so all the little bits, take one.
And now for the certificates.
Start the train.
We'll wait a bit then. I think we've got two trains this time.
Yeah.
Come on.
Still here.
The longest train in Wirral. There's only one train a day now. It's got 47 carriages. Now it's whistling. 11 weeks, it's 33. So they're all in here. So everybody's got at least a raffle ticket. Some got more than others, and that's how it was last time. So. I can't do this little bit. It's ridiculous. Isn't it? Right.
Fantastic. I hope you saw most of that. You know, I think basically the feel for it gives you a feel of how we sort of try to represent through lockdown what we sort of the way we communicated with all different sort of parents, carers, and then it was sent out. We had up to sort of 200 views a week. You know, some would be repeat, but we found out that most people were watching it, and it became quite a valuable thing from that. You know, and again, some of the evidence that we presented, and certainly the Ofsted who looked at this were really quite interested to see what sort of evidence we had. So I put a folder together with everything that we did in there, with a sort of an index at the front. But one of the key things were with some of the testimonials and the things that were said. So, you know, there's a nice one here. You know, a parent saying the son really enjoys watching the celebration assembly, keeps him connected and to teachers, classmates. Certificates motivate him, so he got connected, you know, motivated. It's making a lot of effort educationally and emotionally to support pupils and students alike. He's proud of his school, and it's helping him during this period of stressful period. That was from one parent, and again, this another boy here, daily contact, daily had a great sort of contact. Loved his first day back, so the preparation, realised that there's a big team, helped prepare him so well and to ensure safety, and he loved his first day back. So just, that was a message to the staff who were, vast majority were at home isolating. So what a team, it's great to see. Again, these were passed on. Wonderful pupils, so staff are looking at what the pupils are doing at home and how amazing they are and coping with engaging with things. We set 3 targets for them. That was to do remote learning, to do some Zoom calls with staff, keep in touch, and also to be kind and acts of kindness. Again, people just sort of say they enjoyed watching. Brightened. So there's just these sort of things here sort of added to the evidence really of what we had. Just a little quote there. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal. And again, it's that how we bridged that gap, how we continued that face-to-face support and connection. And at the end of a lot of those assemblies, there'll be a handful of the different staff just saying hello at the end. And it was really quite nice. And how lovely, isn't that lovely? And then a major incident happened. So realistically, what I'm just going to share again now, I'm going to sort of look at stopping the share, and I'm going to show you something else. But basically, it's it was a very difficult situation, and I won't explain it too much. I'm going to sort of share a screen, and it's my version of sort of coping really. And this is a drawing I did to try and just describe what was happening on the day. I'm hoping you can see that. Okay, if you can't, please shout and tell me. This is me describing the major incident. So there you go. Couldn't resist it. Okay, so I'm going to stop that share now, stop that share, and I'm going to go back to our presentation. So just hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour of where we were up to there. And then we're going to get back to share. Yeah, so I think you got the feel for what was going on there. You know, ultimately, what we had was you know, a young person who had got himself to a place he shouldn't and started doing things he shouldn't. And you know, we called the police, the ambulance, and the fire came. And you know, ultimately the young person came down, but as he was coming down, he did slip the last few feet of the drain pipe and hurt himself. He was taken to hospital and he was okay, and he came back in and he's with us now, and we supported him and the family and everything like that. But at that very time, the police felt it was important to make a phone call to the press because they felt that that's what they needed to do. And you can imagine what the title of that phone call was. It was a somewhat exaggerated version of what the reality was. And so effectively what we had was a situation where the press had got hold of it before some of the parents had got hold of it before the school had. It wasn't exactly what happened, and that led to a complaint and also a local authority review. So that was kind of where we went. And so without giving too much away and to respect the people who were involved in it, some of the things we did after it straight away was you know, a couple of these things here. These are really important bullet points for what we did following it. Okay, so all these things, post-incident support was really important. Independent review, called in straight away, debriefing and recording everything, and support, acting decisively, and the risk assessments. More importantly, it did that. It triggered those particular things there. Okay, and that was the final picture. That was a little picture of me there, going to go out, but things were being thrown down, and then a little illustration of the drain pipe. So what happened next? Love this photo, love this painting, really relevant. I hadn't looked at it so closely before. Okay, do you see the boat? I'm sure you know what's coming up. And the people on the boat by the wave next to the volcano. Okay, so effectively the wave, you know, that was, you know, that was the sort of incidents, and the volcano and the inspections were on the way. And so we were in a situation where it was, you know, sink or swim. It was really sort of high pressure. And what we were going to do, this was one Tuesday afternoon, and by the Wednesday we needed to have certainly acted and stuff. But our message the next day was, you know, after a very sort of difficult evening, was the fact that nobody was seriously injured. So on the positive side, nobody was seriously injured in the particular incident, and the young person involved was okay. That was the key thing. That was the key message, irrespective of everything else. And the pupil and family were very much supported. So we looked at it as being, and this is about, you know, an opportunity in a crisis, and what lessons were learned, and to regroup. So it was an opportunity and to move on. Now this is taken, just this was taken from Bernard's book that he did last year, 2019 actually. And there's a couple of bits on behaviour and attitudes, and I think it's really important we look at our behaviour affects their attitude. So whoever there is, it might be the pupils, it might be Ofsted coming in. But there's a couple of little nice messages here. So we often react to triggers and tempts without thinking. These are habitual behaviours. Far more about our behaviours are habitual than we would like to admit. Sometimes when other people challenge us, we find ourselves trying to invent excuses for our own behaviour. It's really important. Shows we're not entirely sure what we're doing, and becoming more aware of our own habitual patterns of behaviour might at least enable us to consider changing some of them. And Bernard's book goes into this in detail on mental fitness. And again, it's about our attitude, isn't it? So some individuals tend to focus their attention on external factors and blame others, blame triggers, unfair systems. And I think we could have done that. We could have said, that's not fair. You know, we had a phone call go into the press, and everyone was here and everyone's looking at the school now. What's that about? It's not fair. But you know, that wasn't the case. Others are in identical situations. So the one we had, luckily, focused their attention on our own reactions, on the ways we can influence external events. And that attitude is called internal locus of control. Research has shown that those with an internal locus of control are happier, better at looking at themselves, looking after themselves, better at looking after their own families, and better contributing towards the community. So a little bit of a sort of a research bit there to look into, but I think it was our attitude, our behaviour and attitude as to how we approached the problem that led to a positive inspection situation. So we had a local authority safeguarding review. Now, at the time, there was we were expecting Ofsted to come in very soon, but the local authority had a complaint around the problems that we'd had, and that went to Ofsted. Ofsted asked LA to come in and do an inspection first of all. So I had 2 HMIs and an LA representative. However, we did have approximately a week to prepare for this, and that is major difference between, you know, them coming in the next day and this. We had all the systems in place, but it gave us an opportunity of pulling things together, and some of the things that I talk about were pulled in together. So I'm almost saying, you know, if you can have prepared a week before at all times, you know, or the day before Ofsted come in, then it's fantastic. But we did have a little bit of time. So what they wanted to know, they had prepared questions. What's behaviour like? What are the worst incidents behaviours you might have encountered? Tell us about a serious incident. That's the one we've just talked about. What training have you got in place? What's attendance? They still want to know about attendance. And can you grade behaviour and attitudes for us? And after I'd been through all of those questions, and we'll unpick that as we move on, was able to sort of say, you know, we're good at the moment, but we'll be outstanding once we've put certain training in place. So what I'm going to kind of show you next is kind of back to front. I could go through the questions and say this is what they asked, and I could answer but you can do that yourself. You can look through the Ofsted questions, you can look at yourself. But what I want to do is I want to go straight to the reports from the local authority safeguarding review and from Ofsted, and look at the reports. And I've pulled out some key areas in the report which were positive comments, and most of them were positive, if not all. So that's why I'm talking to you. But then try and describe the evidence about, you know, what was there about. Now the local authority didn't allow me to show them my lovely big folders with polished folders with lots of different examples in. So then it needed to be understandable. So the folders I gave were very, very clear as to what I wanted them to look at. However, just be aware of GDPR, because when she brought them back, she was very sort of positive about it and just gave me 4 pieces of paper which had slipped in there. They didn't have personal data on, but certainly made me heart skip a beat. We checked the backgrounds of the people who were coming in as well. LA representative and the HMIs, just to see if they knew and understood our setting. I think it's really important. We've got a great safeguarding advisor who did a bit of a check, and they were people who understood what was going on. So I think it's having that confidence to just double check and make sure that they understand what they're checking. The outcomes, so I'm going to go through some of the outcomes and then I hope just give you some guidelines as to what we did and a couple of videos as well. So it says this is one of the outcomes was, they said we were training RPIs to report overarching tenets, etc., diffusion, de-escalation is important. Commitment to prevention and proactivity is reflected, and there's a significant decrease in RPIs over the last 12 to 18 months. That was the case. That's what they saw. We set out goals in our presentation on the inset day in September. We showed them that. We had some case studies of things going down, in particular, one particular child, high on RPIs, reducing through these various different interventions. Again, the training involved in the summer and in September were relative to our targets, and it's all there. So we were able to look at this and cross-reference when we trained people and to what had happened in school, and some comparative analysis, certainly to do with RPIs on a daily basis, and we talk about it on a daily basis, and we compared it to non-lockdown and lockdown, and up-to-date CEF. Up-to-date CEF was really important. So that was just interesting. Bullying, it talked about bullying being rare, relationships observed, very positive and that type of thing. But why? What do we do? Well, we pastoral care have a live, informed live of any incidents from both parties, so they can address them on the day there and then. We've got an online reporting system, behaviour watch, you may have it yourself. But they asked us, you know, does it work? Is that just a piece of, you know, evidence you have in the corner you don't follow? So what they asked was for me to sit with me, 2 HMIs, one either side of me at lunchtime with a computer and behaviour watch, and said, can we look at all the incidents that have happened this morning? So we did. We went through. I was able to just have 20 minutes to just check through and just sort of have a feel for what was going on. But when they came there, I sat down and I showed them what bridge builds were in place, what contacts had been made, what plans were in play, how it cross-referenced with this risk assessment. And also a live one came up, and it was a young person who had a problem with a glue gun and poked it on his finger, and it said self-harm. And you could see there was sort of, that's a bit over the top, self-harm. But I was able to sort of look into his safeguarding plan and detail where it describes him feeling very, very low since lockdown, and he's having some CAM support, and he has talked about harm, although he hasn't actually done it. So it was, so that again, it was relevant, and they could cross-reference and understand that there was a real true live understanding of the things that were going on in school, and that was key. That's what I've just told you, isn't it? And there's a case study, anti-bullying intervention from PCT. Now, this is just a bit of an entertainment, really, but what on anti-bullying day, we have the PCT, and what they did was they just did a little sort of, how do you, if you look at the top there, you know, how do we sort of have an environment which has got, you know, engages children in a proactive, fun manner, and it says at the top. So this was, again, another video that was done from our PCT team, and I will just, I will go, hopefully you can see this again, just give us a shout if you can't. It's only a minute or so, I'll be going halfway through. Okay.
BT Christian! Anti-bullying week.
Now, can you see that, or is that not happening? If anyone could tell me.
No, sorry, Pete. It's just a clear screen.
Okay. Okay, no problem. I'll work. So I think I've got too many things open at once. Okay. Okay. Right, I'm not going to risk that again. It's a nice little video. It's a lovely video, basically about against the Sham 69 background, PCT singing in the Kids United. It's a cracking one, and I'll make sure you get it. But it's just, again, another video element of what was there as well. So it was really useful, and again, it's something that showed our sort of evidence there. Children learn to socialise in tolerant cooperative community, where proactive and affectionate relationships help them to thrive. Evidence, lesson observations, interviews with pupils, assembly rota, including protected characteristics, really important, curriculum examples, etc. And pupil voice. So all these different things were part of it. And we've got another video here, but I'm scared to play it. And basically what it is PCT, one of the guys just showing how to wash your hands and stuff like that. So it was quite entertaining, and the pupils were able to see those before they came into school. Again, the Ofsted insurance inspection phoned us the next day. They'd spoken to the local authority, they'd spoken to the HMIs, and they'd already been informed. So they basically just sort of asked, they phoned us up as they would normally do, and they came the next day. It was actually a care inspection. It was the care inspection as a school with residential pupils, but they still look at all of the elements that you would do in a full education. From the point of view of safeguarding behaviour and attitudes, and lockdown and attendance. So she came in the next day. So effectively, I think one other thing, after having a local authority, we sort of answers the question before they asked them. So, you know, what we needed to look at the data before, during and after lockdown. We looked at incidents of RPI, interventions, case studies, risk assessments, debriefing, training, all that stuff was like, you know, here it is, this is what we did, here's some stories, this is what we've done since. Here's our assemblies, here's our files, here's our data. Sian asked me to do a presentation because it did go well and they were very positive about what happened, and she asked me to do a presentation to SLT and said, Pete, could you just go through all the questions they asked and demonstrate what we did is as a reply to the questions. And unfortunately it didn't work that way. They came in and I was able to show these elements and discuss through things, and they had a look around and they kind of got the answers before they asked the questions. So just, I think again, what I'm trying to show here is when you look at, I've got spelled answer on, no I haven't. Basically, if you look at it and you look at these, some of the statements, it will give you a feel for how it worked. Showed the assembly and went through my files, and I looked at one particular pupil who had a PCT intervention, incidental debriefs and bridge builds and graphs. And this young person had it all, and so I was able to say they struggled, there's an intervention, there was an incident, this is their debrief talks to the risk assessment, it's vice versa. Now we've seen it come down, and you could see that it worked. One of the targets for the last Ofsted were risk assessments and making sure they were more readable and understandable. We simplified the front sheet, we put color coded it, we made it simple, we've done training on it. So again, it was just pulling those things together really. Outcomes, it talks about being fully debriefed after an RPI in line with the school policy and that type of thing. I won't read through that, but you know, the evidence was that case study I've just talked to you about. Post-instance of a bridge build between the boys, remote training, delivering diffusion de-escalation with a focus on post-incident support. So it was just showing evidence of the things that were in place, and then they can understand, and it really helped. And certainly as part of being in lockdown and that type of thing, that debrief, that sort of post-incident support was more important. Just this terminology really, you know, I think it was Tony Bailey who talked about this a long time ago, and one of the things when people were talking about restraints, I think it was an MP talking at one of the Engage meetings, and it was like we kept using the word restraint, and Tony said, can't we use the word protection? And it's absolutely right. I think it's the way we just talk, when we deliver. We have restrictive physical interventions or physical management, but you know, if ever we talk about it, it's about protecting young people and protecting staff. The outcomes, again, policies and procedures support a strong, consistent whole school approach to ensure students are protected as much as possible, environmental and human risks. Relationship observed in the classroom, the playground around the school, consistently warm and nurturing. Following the risk assessment, we did a dynamic risk assessment following a serious incident, and it literally went, we walked, we went from the classroom, out of the classroom, through the corridor, to the playground, to outside. And we literally graded every single element with the RAG rating. And that's a dynamic risk assessment that has now been pushed out to the rest of the school. But again, when health and safety came in, when inspection came in, it was, this is what we're doing to support that young person who put themselves at serious risk. Now we've got a dynamic risk assessment, which is live and understood and shared. The post-incident support plan was really, really key for both inspections. They wanted to know what we've done from the 22nd of September to a week later when the Ofsted came in. What have you done? You know, and we had put, you know, refresher training, we debriefed all staff, we got an external review to come in and a consultant to look at everything, and we'd already ordered extra sort of things. I'll be honest with you, in that incident, we believed, our honest held belief was that that young person was never going to be able to get where he did based on physics really, but he did. And so that was all part of the review, and we acted upon it straight away. You know, nothing's infallible. You'll all know there've been incidents where you go, oh my gosh, how did that happen? But it's again how we reacted and how we reacted quickly based on, you know, the leadership, I think. Observations and discussions with pupils and staff around lunchtime, breaks and care setting, ongoing sharing of key elements of policies. So all these things that we did. Again, you know, this is about the residents, but get positive support on the residents and in school, diligent set some appropriate contact arrangements, both in pastoral support and providing education material. The assemblies, again, it just talks about that and what we can do to help the young people manage their anxieties. Support provided, phone calls home, targeted rewards, etc. And records of cause for concerns and interventions, everything. So it was all showed. Specific safeguarding specific assembly, I won't do that as well because it'd probably go wrong, but it was actually showing the addendum and talking about a couple of key areas in the addendum that parents and pupils could see. Now, so that was it. So hopefully from that you get a feel for that there was a number of things that they did. We kind of presented, we already had in place, we as a leadership team we talked about it, and so we were able to present it there and then. The Ofsted research visit was the last Tuesday before Christmas, where we were just settling down. We'd actually done a Zoom to all staff saying well done, it's been a busy term, but we've had Ofsted, it's been okay. And at 10 o'clock we got a phone call saying, hi, Ofsted here, and Sean straight away said, Pete, get SLT in here, get in the boardroom. Oh my gosh, what sort of world is this? And it was a research visit. So after an hour and a half of twitching more than I am now, we realised it was a research visit. But effectively, they were still coming in the next day at 10 o'clock for 6 hours. They wanted to look at curriculum, remote learning, behaviour. We have, have you had any addendums, attendance, national trends? What support have we got in place? And how many staff and pupils have been off due to COVID? So they're the key questions. They're actually the ones that they asked us, and each one was broken down to about 6 individual ones. You may have had them, you may not. But effectively, it was an opportunity, really. After the other ones, it felt like an opportunity anyway. And from that, there's a number of different bits. I will just, there's only a couple more slides now, but just sort of show you a few bits and bobs that we've got here. Behaviour policy, addendum, emphasis change. So we did have on the addendum, we actually looked at changing the emphasis of the behaviour policy, a focus on well-being, consequences, and resolutions rather than rewards and sanctions. And we did talk to Steve Baker, our pal from the local schools around here that you'll probably know. He's done stuff with Engage before, and we're looking at maybe him doing some talks. And this was his book. Him and Mick Simpson is. He's exec head and Mick's another head in one of his schools, and he's put this together. And so it was on the back of talking to Steve and him working with the school, we did some work on consequences and resolutions, which went down again with the inspectors and looking at the fact that it's all very much about consequences and resolving problems rather than sanctions. He should be doing some work in this year's conference. Risk assessments, we did a risk assessment. We did red, amber, green. So pupils that we felt were red, and the criteria, they want to know what the criteria was. And it's the cause for concerns, do the children looked after, and just general sort of day-to-day issues. You may have a child who hasn't got many cause for concerns or many incidents, but it's because they're very much protected in school by a key members of staff, and that young person's going to be lost when they go home. So again, it's about that communication. And there's the criteria. There's quite a lot of support for those pupils on red, and that's what we shared with the local authorities. And then it was really key, showing again Ofsted that this is what we did at the beginning of lockdown. There's a bit of a case study here. This child was on red, so that's what he had, but he was still struggling. Struggled to access remote learning, feeling low, thoughts of self-harm and suicide. So we increased the Zoom meetings with a therapist that we opened up to and a form tutor on a Monday and Friday, top and tail the week. Conclusion, access remote learning, CAMS intervention, family support, remote, but also a positive attitude in relation to self. So that was based on the support we gave over there. Cause for concerns, the Ofsted were really keen on seeing if we had gone with the national trend at the beginning and it dropped, and were we missing things? And we analysed our stuff, and we had seen that there was a 50% lockdown. But what we did was, instead of thinking, okay, that's that, we looked at what percentage of that 50% was serious or referable cases, and it was in line with the normal or regular cause for concerns. So effectively, staff were following policy and reporting every cause of concern, no matter how low level, whereas parents and carers didn't seem to be. So I think there's a piece of work to be done there. you know, but what we've done now is increased the opportunity of young people to speak to staff, as well as for staff to speak to the adults, the carers and the parents and carers at home. So that they're hoping to capture some of those areas where the pupils have spoken to staff, have been missing things, because as you'll know, those low level cause for concerns build up, don't they, and they build a picture. So, you know, that's something we're looking at moving forward. This is just something I mentioned right at the beginning before we came on to Richard and Georgina and Sue, and it was just there's only a couple more slides, but what are we doing to support our staff who've had COVID? I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, still sort of a bit uncomfortable now and then. My wife got it as well. But what are we doing? Because when they come back in, they seem okay. A lot of people, some people don't even have symptoms. Some people, as we all know, pay the ultimate price. And when you've got it and when you're off, I had it, so I'm speaking for myself, as a 51-year-old bloke and a 52-year-old wife with 2 kids at home. It is really scary. It is really scary. And you're looking at the news and you're thinking, is this going to get worse? Is it not? And you come back and you're quite fragile and you're quite fearful. And you feel like the only people you can properly talk to, might seem strange, is the people who've had it. And so I spoke with SLT and what should we do and what's appropriate. It's unpredictable, especially post-infection at the moment. So what we've done is we've created a forum for those who've been infected, and a conduit to SLT, a support mechanism of weekly basis meetings. So if you get nothing from this, if you just take away the fact that it's something that, unless you've had it, or unless you're very, very empathetic and compassionate and you've got time to think about it, you don't do it. But it's a really important thing. That's got nothing to do with Ofsted. That's what we've started now. Again, touching the idea of touching base and stuff like that. So that's that. Now, what I've got here, I'm not going to go through these. There's about 5 slides. This is what Sue said. This is what the assurance Ofsted sort of assess. So this is what they did. I've put in red for you to see what we did throughout the Ofsted inspections and what we presented in a bit more detail than what I've already explained to you. So you should be able to go back and go, okay, what's that? The only thing I have no answer on, are you planning on using allocated COVID funding for behaviour support or any support? I still haven't got an answer on that one, and I don't know whether Sean has it, so please answers on a postcard. Safeguarding, again, I'm not going to go through them. I'm just going to whack through and show you that that's effectively, you know, what we did. The curriculum meeting, I haven't touched on that. We haven't got time. I haven't got the experience or expertise, but I think it's a whole new forum for conversation. And I think this dovetails into what I was really wanting to call for at the end. And it's about a call to collaborate. You know, we as a school have got some cracking little parts. The guy who did the video before, and a few great little bits which show you know, what we can do, how we can engage the young people, remote learning, technology, or any other ideas. And I think what we'd like to do is engage, certainly from the point of view of regional sort of leads and regional sort of members, and what we want to do is bring together a group of people who can just help each other and sort of put things together and meet. And just pool the good ideas. And so as I've engaged, and certainly the website is a place where people can go to get some cracking ideas moving forward. Because ultimately, whether COVID goes away or not, I think what we found is that remote learning is really suits some people and doesn't suit others. I think it's going to change the way education works. And I think if if engage can be right at the start of this, you've got, Rich Berry coming on next time talking about, well-being and mental health, and we've got Barry Carpenter coming on talking about that sort of element of learning and well-being. What does it look like, and can we get together? Now, I've said send ideas to me or Chris, but I think sending them to Georgia and getting them centralised will be fantastic. Would be really good. Again, Barry Carpenter coming up. No, he doesn't need an advert yet, but there he is. That's what Reigniting Learning and Wellbeing, and Sharon does all the work with him and on the new curriculum and everything like that. So it's just a really exciting time, really, to bring things together. And I think there's all sorts of different things. So hopefully you've got some top tips there. But what I just wanted to do is, because I think for some reason I was listening to this song. This is the last slide. You're all right. And I'm about an hour now. So this is the last slide. I'm hoping you can hear me. This is to do with the code as well, and you can email me if you work the code out. You can send me another time. But basically, just you know, we are, everybody is a star in our worlds. All I've heard from heads, from colleagues, from everyone is that we are doing an incredible job under an incredibly difficult situation. We are, you know, we are not blowing our own trumpets probably, but we should be. We are showing, you know, all those things we talked about at the beginning with trailblazers. So we are, everyone is a star, but there's a couple of words in this. It's a lovely song. There's a couple of words in this particular song which I think, and phrases I think, are brilliant, and they relate to you all. So, you know, a big thanks to everyone for coming on here and listening. But, you know, it's just some some cracking sort of little, let me just play it and enjoy. They sound a bit tinny, but okay, so that's enough indulgence for one day. And thank you very much. I'll stop sharing, and that's it. I hope you got something from that. Thank you very much.
Okay, have we got any questions before we conclude? Pete, you've given us so much to think about, and I have to acknowledge that my intro certainly didn't give your presentation or your delivery justice, as you pointed out right at the start, but it's absolutely true. I don't know about colleagues, but I found that quite therapeutic. Therapeutic in terms of understanding and reminding ourselves of the significant work in our schools when the system tries to bring you down. Exactly. And I really, really enjoyed the way you focus on the exciting times, Pete. You've obviously experienced, like most of us in special schools, some really difficult and dark times, but how you've come through them, I think, was clearly demonstrated in your presentation today. So thank you for sharing your experiences, the three inspections, insurance visits, with such openness and honesty, and with a focus really on collating best practice, evidence, but also the importance of learning. And that's something within our schools I think we continually talk around, is about that, you know, we all experience some real dire situations at times and real challenges to our leadership, but it's our attitude that gets us through. And I think that certainly came through today in your presentation. Thank you for your humour, your fun, and the pride that exuded throughout your delivery. Thank you also for dropping in Engage's National Creative Awards. More details to follow. And I'm sure Bern will thank you for his promotion of his book.
Yeah, about 40 quid I got from that. It was great.
Yeah. Okay, good. I got 50 actually for introducing the book. And then finally, so thank you for sharing your incredibly powerful drawings, which really sort of promoted much thought and reflection, certainly for myself, which I'm sure it did for colleagues. and sort of related us to the experiences and connected us so strongly to them. So thank you for that. So colleagues, I'm sure you'll agree that Peter's provided us with so many examples of great practice, and it reminds us of our focus, the focus of our work with children and young people and the supporting staff. So colleagues, you have been called to collaborate. You're all stars. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you at the next presentation in a week's time. Take care.
Well, thanks, Sue. Brilliant.
Thank you, Pete.